Hello, I'm Dr. Daphne Miller, and I'm a clinical professor in family and community medicine at the University of California, San Francisco, and the Food as Medicine and Community Medicine lead for the Lifelong Family Medicine Residency Program. I spend much of my workday in Richmond's Iron Triangle, one of the most under-resourced communities in the California Bay Area. In our clinic, we see patients experiencing a wide array of health challenges, but one root cause of many of these challenges is food. So, how does food play a role in their health? Well, one obvious answer is diet. It is well established that a combination of food insecurity, which is not having the resources to access healthy food, and poor diet can contribute to a host of disabling chronic conditions, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease and stroke, cancer and depression and other mental health issues, and oral health issues. Numerous studies have connected different foods and food components to health outcomes, forming the foundations of current dietary guidance for improving health. The extensive data being generated through Foodomics will only expand our understanding of the complex connections among food, diet, and health. But if you broaden your lens, you realize that diet is only one way that food impacts our health. Food is part of a complex food system, and when any part of the system is broken, it can negatively impact our physical and emotional health and the health of our planet. For example, food production can harm the surrounding environment, including the water we drink and the air we breathe. It can expose us to pathogenic microbes and toxic chemicals, and it can impact our livelihoods and our work conditions, and even our social and cultural connections. The World Health Organization, or WHO, recently identified 5 distinct pathways through which the food system can negatively impact our health. 1. Unhealthy diets and food insecurity. 2. Zoonotic pathogens and antimicrobial resistance. 3. Unsafe and adulterated foods. 4. Environmental contamination. And 5. Occupational hazards. How can we reframe the challenges laid out by WHO as opportunities? How can we improve our health through food? Well, at the risk of sounding overly simplistic, I propose that one way to do this is to boost biodiversity. Biodiversity describes the variety of life on Earth in all of its forms, from the tiny genes and bacteria in our food to human and non-human animals in our communities. The concept of biodiversity can be expanded to include cultural diversity. I think of this as our vast trove of knowledge, practices, and values that interact with and shape biodiversity. As we've already learned, dietary diversity is good for our health. We need diversity in our diet to access a rainbow of different nutrients and other food components, including secondary metabolites such as flavonoids and alkaloids that support health and prevent chronic disease. And the science of foodomics can help us measure this aspect of diversity by mapping the vast array of bioactive compounds in food, as well as micro and macronutrients that are regarded as essential to nutrition. But to really improve health, we need to boost biodiversity throughout the food system. from the ways we manage our soil and grow our food, to the genetic diversity of our crops, to the diversity of cultures and people who control our food system. Biologically diverse food systems are more resilient to environmental change, such as shocks from climate change, while also improving soil and human health. However, over much of the globe, diversity has been lost due to simplification and consolidation. Let's start exploring these concepts by looking at diversity of farm ownership. In the early 1900s, weakening of antitrust laws paved the way for a period called merger madness. There was a consolidation of all kinds of businesses, including agriculture. Since then, the number of farms that were 1,000 acres or more have doubled, and the number of small to mid-sized farms have shrunk accordingly. This consolidation has also meant that there are fewer people who have a seat at the table, so to speak. And that has resulted in a lack of diversity in the voices, ideas, and needs that are being prioritized, in addition to a lack of diversity in the types of crops being grown and the knowledge to produce and prepare these crops. We have also experienced a loss of diversity in our global seed supply due to corporate consolidation of seed companies. These companies have bought up small local seed enterprises and then phased out many of their cultural and heirloom seed products. What are these seeds being replaced with? Mostly patented hybrid seeds that do not grow well from a saved seed and must be purchased year after year. These seeds often require specialized herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers in order to grow. Many of these big seed corporations don't just sell seeds. They also sell chemicals and pharmaceuticals. So they stand to make a triple profit from the seeds themselves, from the chemicals needed to grow the seeds, and the pharmaceuticals that are used to treat the chronic diseases that arise from eating the products that come from these seeds. In short, loss of biological diversity in seeds is unhealthy for the entire system and for us. Seed consolidation directly affects what we grow and how we grow it. In the same time frame, there has been a consolidation in seed companies and land ownership. There's also been an increase in industrial monoculture production of soy and corn, and loss of production of a diversity of more nutritious crops. As we focus on a few commodity crops that are easily turned into sweeteners and low-nutrient foods, we lose the nutritious foods in our diet. Industrial monoculture also accelerates the loss of soil biodiversity. So what are the solutions that could reverse this loss of diversity in our food system and safeguard our health through all 5 of the WHO pathways? It turns out that there are certain farming practices that are known to boost biodiversity. These practices go by many names: regenerative, agroecological, perennial. These practices have been used for centuries by indigenous farmers around the globe to protect their soil and the health of their communities. Studies have shown that regenerative farming, when compared to conventional farming in the same region, often produces food with slightly higher concentrations of phytochemicals. These phytochemicals, or secondary metabolites, are protective substances produced by plants, particularly when the plants are exposed to conditions like those found on a regenerative farm. These phytochemicals are also protective for us. They help us fight cancer, heart disease, and other chronic diseases. By the way, Foodomics helps us identify these health-promoting phytochemicals in our food supply and could be a useful tool for understanding how agricultural production influences food quality and our health. These are two very different examples of almond production in California. One relies heavily on inputs such as fungicides, water, imported pollinators, and fertilizer. The other uses regenerative farming practices and relies on a mixture of plants and animals to do the job. Farming with the weeds rather than fighting them with chemicals can offer us another way to harness biodiversity for health. Greater ethnic and racial diversity in who farms and owns land also translates into healthier, more biologically diverse food systems for all of us. Globally, indigenous farmers have implemented regenerative practices for centuries, despite efforts to convert them to conventional agriculture. And these communities still steward the majority of the world's edible biodiversity. So boosting diversity at many levels, from soil to seed to plant to people, is an approach to healing the whole system. In my clinic, located in North Richmond, California, I've witnessed how local efforts to boost the diversity of soil, seeds, farm produce, and farmers has increased the health of my patients. North Richmond is a majority-minority community. It has a lot of environmental and health challenges. Many folks living in North Richmond have experienced decades of environmental injustice and unfair lending practices. It is therefore no surprise that this neighborhood has some of the Bay Area's highest rates of poverty, housing insecurity, food insecurity, and chronic disease. But health here also begins with soil and diversity, and specifically with urban tilth. Urban tilth is a nonprofit, regenerative, diversified farm. Food from urban tilth and neighboring farms gets packed up in grocery bags and delivered to my clinic, which is 2 miles away. These grocery bags are handed out as weekly food prescriptions to patients who attend our healthy eating group medical visits. These are medical visits for people experiencing food insecurity and food-related chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes. During these visits, we do a health check-in, we cook together, and we eat together. Urban Tilth also employs and trains a diversified local workforce. This is one case study that shows us how promoting diversity on many levels creates a cycle of health. In this course, you will learn about other examples of researchers and practitioners partnering with communities around the globe to explore the connections among people, plants, seeds, and soil. Integrated and holistic practices like these are critical for further understanding the connections between food systems, biodiversity, and health. Remember, the connections between food and health expand far beyond the role of nutrition and diets, as demonstrated by the WHO 5 pathways. The systems that influence what foods we eat and how the food is grown and who grows it affect our health in so many ways, and also profoundly impact the health of our planet.